All right, for lesson 6 here, from our chapters 8 and 10, we are looking at solving exponential equations. So to do that, that's what brings us into the use of logarithms. So I know this comes up pretty heavy in Algebra 2, as well as math analysis. So this should be familiar territory for us, but a couple reminders as we go here. So one of the main things that we want to take a look at is when given an equation in exponential form like this, where we have x as an exponent. The way to get it by itself so that's no longer an exponent is to replace it with log form. So this is kind of the transition from exponent form to log form. And so that's kind of the common approach in order to solve for x, because all that does is isolate x, which is the goal. So the other side can go into our calculator here. So as we look at our first equation, 2 to what power is 10? Right? Obviously, that's not a value that we would know. We do know that 2 to the third is 8, and 2 to the fourth is 16. So it's somewhere between 3 and 4. Would give us a value of 10, but we don't know exactly what that would be. And so we would need the use of a calculator for something like that. So we know it's between 3 and 4, probably closer to 3. So we would maybe estimate that it's about 3.2-ish. But we really wouldn't know the exact value unless we could make use of a calculator. So the way that we would do this is we would say, well, if we convert this to log form, so again, all I'm going to do is follow this path that you see right here. So we're going to make use of logs. Our base continues to be our base, and so we have a base of 2 on this. The 10 that you see on the right side is going to come over to the left side. And that isolates x, which means I can now put the left side into my calculator and solve from there. So once it's in log form, there's 2 ways you can do this. Here's kind of the nice way with the more advanced calculators, like the one you're seeing in this video, can handle that base of 2 right there. So if you go to your math button, go to math, and we're going to go all the way down to the one that says log base, hit enter. And now you can all simply plug in the numbers. So we have a base of 2, and we're going to have a value of 10 right there. And so we just sub it into our calculator exactly the way we see it in our problem and hit enter, and there we go. So to 3 sig figs, we would say 3.32. So that's our answer on that one. For some of the older models of the calculators that can't do that change of base right there where you can put in a base of 2. Let me show you another way to do that. For the most part, a calculator automatically assumes any log has a base of 10. And so when you go to try to put in a log into your calculator, it will automatically use that base of 10 unless you can sub in a different value like this one can, but the older models can't do that. They can only use a base of 10. So the way that you deal with that in your calculator is we use something called the change of base formula, which is simply to do the log of this number divided by the log of this number. So if I were to hit the log of 10, close those parentheses, divide that by the log of 2, and hit enter, you'll see we get the same value, and that's a way that every calculator can do it. So if you don't have one of the newer models that lets you change the base like this one did, then just go with the change of base formula method for solving in your calculator. All right, moving on. So example 2 here, kind of more of the same. Let me give you one more practice problem. If you're doing this on your own, this is a good place to pause the video and give this one a try on your own. But if we wanted to solve for x, before you convert something to log form, you always want to simplify everything that you can first. And so in this case, I want to add that 7 over to the other side. And that's as far as I can take it by hand. And now is where we would say, okay, I can't go any farther. I still want to get x by itself. So here's where I would change forms into log form to isolate the x. And so this is where we'd say, okay, let's do our log base 3 of 19 equals x. And now by changing forms, now I have isolated x, which means I can now put this into my calculator, and you'll just do that the same way we did with the last one. So real quick, I'll do that one more time. for this one here. So if I go to math, go down to the option that says log base and hit enter, and I got a base of 3. I'm going to put my 19 into the parentheses and hit enter. So 2.68 would be our solution. Keep with our 3 sig fig rule. That's always a standing rule all year, so continue to use that whenever you round. There is another feature on your calculator that I wanted to show you. There is a solve feature, but to be honest, as I've shown that in the past, that just wasn't working for a lot of students, or they were forgetting the steps, so really was not the best way to go. And so this is a method I have kind of stopped showing because it just was not a working method for so many students. I've kind of found it to be a poor way to go on this. So we're going to move on without the use of that method. For whatever reason, if you're really interested in it, you can always come ask me and I can show you how to do it with your calculator. But I mean, really, we're just solving logarithms. We're already going to learn 2 methods for solving these. How many methods do you really need? So we just learned the first one up top with the way of converting into log form and then putting this into your calculator. Let me show you one more way we could solve equations on our calculator. So we're going to have 2 solid methods for solving here. So these are the same 2 equations that we saw up above. I'm just giving you different ways of solving. And so the use of logarithms is one great way of solving that equation. The other way is the graphing method in your calculator. And I've shown this in an earlier lesson. But simply, if I graph the left side as one equation and the right side of the equation as a separate equation, I can graph those 2 and simply find out where they are equal or where they intersect. And so I'm just going to go ahead and hit graph. So here comes 2 to the x. On top of the screen, you're going to see the y equals 10. And boom, right there where they intersect is going to be our solution. So I'm going to hit second calc, go down to intersect, and I'm going to get my cursor in the neighborhood of my answer. Doesn't have to be on it, just has to be close. Hit enter, enter, enter. And there you go, 3.32. That was the same solution we got up top. Do remember for this that we are just solving for x. So don't put the x and the y solutions in there. It's just an x solution. So 3.32. Let's do it one more time with another example. So we're going to solve the other equation with the same process just for one more practice problem. Again, if you're doing the video for the first time, this is a great place to pause and try it on your own before I do it. So again, I'm going to do 3 to the x minus 7 on one equation for one function, and we'll do the 12 as the other one. Something you have to consider every time you use a graphing method is the proper window settings. If I graph the line y equals 12, then that means it's going to go through y equals 12 through the y-axis. So I got to make sure that my window is high enough to accommodate that. So my y max of 10, you're not going to see 12 on there because 12 is bigger than 10. So let's raise my y max a little higher so that my window will show the y equals 12. So I'm going to go ahead now and hit graph on that. So here comes the exponential function. The red one is going to be the y equals 12. We see the point of intersection up there. So again, I'm going to hit second calc, go to intersect. Let me get my cursor into that area. I'm going to hit enter, enter, enter. And there we go, 2.68. That was the same solution we had up above. So when it comes to solving exponential functions, you're going to have the option of either method. I can use logarithms to solve with what we did up top. I can also use the graphing feature that we just showed, and that works too. So it's really just going to be a matter of what works best for you.